What's up? So ladies and gentlemen, this is a very exciting video because it is in fact my last video that I am making of 2018. And this was actually one of the first videos that I did at the start of 2018. And today what we're going to be doing is ranking every named location in Fortnite from worst to best. Real quick, I did just want to give a huge thank you to all you people out there that like and support these videos. It really has been a huge transition for me from making zombies to Fortnite content, and I really want to thank you guys for allowing me to make that actual transition. Anyways though, with all that being said, final video of 2018, let's do this. All right, so coming in at our lowest ranking spot, the worst named location to drop in Fortnite, one of the worst locations entirety to drop, is Tomato Temple. So you may be asking yourself, why does Tomato Temple suck? Well, I've actually got a full list of criteria as to why this is the worst place in the game. So we're going to be ranking these locations based on 4 main criteria. The 4 most important criteria that make a location good or not. The most important thing is resources. Are you gonna walk out of this place with decent guns at least, based on your luck? But also, what about, materials? What about shield? Are there mushrooms at the location? All of those things together are the most important thing that a location can provide. If you don't got guns, you're not winning. The next thing is, will you walk out of it with a full team? Places like Tilted Towers are rewarding because you get good loot, but there's also a very high chance that maybe one of your teammates, or if not all of your teammates, are going to die because it's such a risky place. So you obviously want to walk out of a location with a full team. But not only do you want good loot and want to walk out with a full team, you also do want to land at a place that's going to get kills. You can drop at the furthest most corner of the map, but starting a game with no kills to me is just not a good idea, as you don't have that confidence going into your second actual real fight. And from there, typically, you walk around for 10 minutes and then die. But more importantly, the problem with being in a non-central location is the storm. Locations that are far out, you're going to be running from the storm, and furthermore, you're less likely to see other people. And seeing other players is crucial. It doesn't matter if you're a good player or a bad player. You want to land at places that you're going to see a lot of people, because that's the only way you're going to get better. And with those 4 considerations in mind, Tomato Temple does really nothing. The loot is considerably pretty awful. And while there are pretty good odds of making it out with a full team, that's only because nobody else drops there. Lastly, the location is not the worst I've ever seen in my life, but it's also not very ideal. So yeah, Tomato Temple is the worst location in Fortnite. Now that we've all got that sorted out, let's continue on. Coming in at our number 8 spot is Wailing Woods. Wailing Woods, in my opinion, is really, it's never been a good location, and it's still not a good location. Now, obviously, the mats, the shields, very strong at Wailing. But really, I think that's as good as it gets. It's got very poop location. There are very few chests here. It's very spread out, so it's hard to go. And really, nobody drops here. Like, I can't really make a good case for Wailing Woods, even though I know a lot of players do like it. There's just nothing good about this spot. Moving on to our 17th spot, this is going to be Haunted Hills. Now, Haunted Hills did get a little bit better, but I'm still going to affirm that it's a pretty terrible location. The loot is mediocre at best. It's very far from the middle of the map, and last but not least, just again, nobody really drops there. And followed by Haunted Hills, this is going to be the sister location of this, I guess, which is Junk Junction. Even further from the center of the map, so obviously that's bad. The redeeming quality of Junk Junction is it definitely has slightly better loot, but overall, again, it's just so far from anything that you're not going to be getting a lot of kills or a lot of encounters in this game. Moving on to our 15th spot, this is going to be Frosty Flights. Okay, so Frosty Flights actually has pretty good loot, and while it's terrible location, I will admit that obviously there's forever going to be planes there, so it is relatively easy to get to the middle of the map. It's still got garbage location though. And the other thing that makes this spot I find particularly bad is it's extremely hard to walk out with a full team. And due to the nature of the map just being all over the place, high and low, left and right, east and west, like it's just totally spread out. If you want to properly loot this, you have to loot it on your own and have your team kind of divvy up the areas. But if there's another team there, it's very likely that one of your teammates is gonna down, and then they're gonna get thirsted. So although it has decent loot and people do drop here, it's really just not an ideal spot to go. It sucks because if no one lands there, you're not going to get any kills, but if people do, it's very likely that one of your teammates is going to die. Now, number 14, this is going to be Snobby Shores. I would say very above average loot, but that's really where this runs out. Location is not the worst, but not the best. And while you do have a high survival chance of your team making it out of here, that's only because nobody ever drops here. There's literally just no bus route that incentivizes people to drop here because like you drop down and it's like, oh, well, I'll just go straight to Tilted or, you know, whatever else is in the area. At 13, this is going to be Lucky Landing. Fairly good loot, but again, nothing special. Next, you do get a few people that occasionally drop here, but I think more importantly is like the location. It's not the worst because it's not on a corner, but rather up, so you're moving directly up rather than diagonal, which is a lot further, obviously. Triangles and math and stuff, but it's really not that complicated. But I feel like overall, Lucky Landing's not a bad spot. It's just a pretty average spot. At number 12, this is going to be Happy Hamlet. Now, Happy Hamlet does one thing right, and that is loot. You're probably going to walk out of here with full shield and some decent guns. I mean, there's tons of chests. You probably can get some decent mats just throughout the buildings themselves. But this suffers the same fate as pretty much everything down in that corner, like Frosty Flights, and that is just the fact that probably no one's dropping here, and more importantly, it's just a hike to the circle. At number 11, this is going to be Lonely Lodge. Now, honestly, I'm surprised this hasn't been taken out of the map. I feel like it's one of the most like just weird locations that is from the original Fortnite that's still in it, but it's pretty mediocre. Like pretty much middle of the road. I will say pretty good loot, but more importantly on resources is actual materials themselves. And then you also have mushrooms, which is a nice like addition to your health. The location is not the worst place ever, but it's also pretty far from anything else important. And you do sometimes get other players dropping here. So it's just a pretty average place in my opinion. And topping out our number 10 spot, this is going to be Lazy Links. Now I've been asserting this from the moment that this place came out that it's just not that good, but for some reason, people continue to drop here. I think in total, there's something like 8 chests at this place. Yet it's one of the most common squad drops in Fortnite. It's got bad loot. I'm sorry, but that's just a fact. And I really think the only reason that people drop here is because people drop here. But again, because it's got such bad loot, I find the chances of all of your teammates dropping in, getting an actual decent gun and defeating 1 to 2 other squads is very unlikely. Almost every time I drop at Lucky, I've got one teammate that gets unlucky, they find a common pistol or like a burst, there's someone on them with a shotgun, and they're dead. So I'm just saying, Lazy Links, overrated spot. On top of that, it also isn't good location. Moving on to our number 9 spot, this is going to be Shifty Shafts. The Shifty is a location that I think I can see people saying deserves to be lower. Now, it certainly doesn't have a ton of chests in the actual area itself, but I would consider the 2 houses that are directly beside it to also be a part of this location. So I would say overall, decent loot. And you do get some people going here, so I would say there's like a moderate chance of you walking out here with a team. There's also a moderate chance of you getting kills. And as I said, kills are important. But most importantly with Shifty Shaft is it's just got great location. I mean, if you're someone that's a little bit scared to go Tilted, what you can do is, I mean, you can just drop here, loot up, and then run to Tilted. And then, you know, you kind of get like eased into that chaos. I support Shifty Shafts, and I think that people sometimes hate on it, but it's not really that bad of a location. Now, moving on to our number 8 spot, this is going to be Fatal Fields. So I think the thing that I would have to say about Fatal Fields is it is the most average place in the game. You are going to get an average amount of loot, okay? There's quite a few chests here, certainly enough for a squad, but not a ton. Not an overabundance, let's say. It's got a pretty decent location, okay? It's right next to Salty. You hit Salty, you can continue on, and you're basically in the middle of the map. People actually go here, so that's great. You might walk away with a kill or 2, you know, get that confidence going, but also not so many to the point where you're not going to make it out with the team. Fatal is a very average place, but because it does everything fairly averagely, that makes it above average. There's so many locations that are good for 1 or 2 things, but bad in a lot of areas that really drag it down. And this makes Fatal actually pretty solid spot to drop. At number 7, this is going to be Pleasant Park. So I would say Pleasant Park is very similar to Fatal, but just has a few things going for it that's better. I would say Pleasant has 1, better loot, and 2, better location. You're very close to both Loot Lake, which might have more loot, and obviously Tilted if you're looking for fights. The thing with Pleasant, which can be a blessing or a curse, is more people. Definitely getting more people generally at Pleasant, and I find the other thing is this is another location that can be sometimes tricky to make it out with a full team. Just the nature of houses, you know, sometimes a guy drops on in your teammate's house and he's an idiot and he dropped way on the other side of the map and, you know, he gets a pistol, other guy gets a shotgun and he's dead. But if you do land here strategically and there's not more than like 2 squads, if you're a good team, you will make it out alive. Now, moving on to a number 6 spot, this is going to be Paradise. So Paradise is a very interesting location because I would say it's got one bad location. It's really not that close to anything. Obviously, the rifts do help, but what really makes this place good is a decent number of people and good loot. It's kind of like the Tilted of the southeast. Yeah, east. It's kind of like the Tilted Tower's sister. It's a little bit less popular, a little bit less loot, but same general principle. Now, moving on to our number 5 spot, this is going to be Salty Springs. Okay, so I like Salty Springs and I also hate it. The worst thing about Salty Springs, I would say, is its loot, and still, like, it's got pretty good loot. As far as locations go, it's the second most central location in the game, just below Dusty Divot. And on top of that, it also sees a lot of traffic, so you're guaranteed to get in some fights, get in some action, and whether you're looking for kills or just to become a better player, it's a nice place to drop. And again, I really do want to assert that. I see players that are not good at Fortnite drop at like the most unnamed locations, and it's like, you're never going to get better if you keep dropping there. Dropping in and spending 15 minutes to loot up only to get killed by the first squad you see is pointless. Something I always assert to new players is like, placements, wins, doesn't matter, okay? Go for kills, go for the higher populated areas. Doesn't mean you need to go to Tilted, but maybe go to a place like Salty. Moving on to our number 4 spot, this is going to be Retail. So I would say Retail and Salty are almost direct clones of each other, like as far as like ranking all these criteria go, but Retail is better. First and foremost, Retail just has more locations to go to, so better loot. I would say it's got the same amount of kills and a slightly higher feeling survivability. And that's really just due to the fact that it's a little bit more open. I think you've got a little bit more space to breathe. And last but not least, it's extremely central. The third, I believe, most central location in the game. Now, moving on to our number 3 spot, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to actually be Loot Lake. Now, there's like a funny running joke with Fortnite that basically like Loot Lake took a year to get good. The start of Fortnite, people would always say Loot Lake was great because it had good loot, and it had terrible loot. It had one house in the middle with nothing. But now, Loot Lake is actually Loot Lake. Well, more like Loot Marsh, but you know what I'm saying. Great loot, okay? There are like 12 to 15 chests in this area. That's a phenomenal start. It's a pretty popular area, so you're bound to get kills, okay? You may notice in my gameplay, I drop here a lot in solo because there's so many people that go here. It's a great way to start a game with 4 or 5 kills. And on top of that, it is another one of the most central locations in the game. The one big problem with Loot Lake, and the reason I'm ranking it lower than the other 2, is it's probably got the worst survivability in the game. Maybe. I mean, I think, actually, I would say probably tied with Tilted, but hear me out. There's no cover in this location. There's literally like nowheres you can really hide. It's just a big open area, and there are very few places where you can gather materials. Like, it's one thing to drop here solo, but if you're dropping here as a squad, you're gonna have a bad time. No more than duos should you drop here, and that is why, again, I'm ranking this at number 3. Because when you drop here in a squad, you've probably got another full squad, and what are the chances that someone's gonna get a sniper, someone's gonna get a heavy AR, and they're gonna light at least one of your guys up? It's just, I find it's too risky to even bother dropping here in squads, but it is a nice place to run through after, you know, you've gone somewhere else. As far as solo goes, I would probably say this is the best place to drop in the game, maybe top 2. But again, just the fact that it's so bad in squads, I had to rank it a little bit lower. Now, ladies and gentlemen, moving on to our, actually, wait. So this is only named locations, but I just wanted to throw in that if I had to say non-named locations, I would throw the little Mexican villages right here, between number 2 and number 3. That's just a really good location for loot, and people usually go there. Anyways, moving on to our number 2 spot, an actual named location. This is going to be Tilted Towers. Okay, so I mean, I think this was pretty obvious that it was gonna rank high. Let's look at it. Tilted Towers has the best loot in the game. Hands down, okay, you can walk out of here with amazing guns, full shield if you're a good player, and also max wood from all the pallets. Again, just resources on resources on resources. Furthermore, you are always going to get a kill here. Okay, you're always at least going to run into somebody that you have the potential to kill. It's also one of the most central locations in the game. But all these three great things make it also one of the hardest to survive. And that's why I'm actually ranking it at number 2. While for the best of players, Tilted is obviously the greatest spot to go, I don't think it's the best for every player. It's got loot, it's got action, and it's close to everything. But the chances of you making it out here with a full team, or let alone any team at all because you all died, are fairly low. Me and my friend have a game we like to do where we call it Tilted Until We Win, and it often results in us not ever winning. But with all that being said, I mean, even if you're a bad player, you know, you gotta understand that Tilted is, like, on paper and really, I think in practice, one of the best places you can drop. With that being said, though, I do have an honorable mention. So I'm not including Risky Reels on this list because it's just not really in the game anymore. It's impossible to look at the block because it's going to be changing throughout the season. So I didn't want to look at that either. So yeah, just thought I'd mention that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, coming in at our number 1 spot, this is Dusty Divot. Okay, so this might be a huge surprise to you, but I've got a very strong point to make for Dusty Divot. First and foremost, resources. Dusty Divot has got ample loot for your squad to be at least decently loaded up. But even if you aren't decently loaded up, fortunately, you are in a forest, so you are going to be able to walk out of here with 999 wood if you want to. It's also the most abundant place of mushrooms, which makes shielding very easy. More importantly, it is the most central location in Fortnite. For those of you that don't know, on the map between E and F 5 and 6, that is the central location on the map. It's that big mountain just next to Dusty. So Dusty Divot is obviously therefore the most central location. Okay, so not the best loot, but I would say like probably one of the best and the best location. Furthermore, lots of people drop here. You're always seeing a few players drop here. It's nice to land in, get a few kills, and continue on your way. And last but not least, I would say it is one of the most survivable central locations in Fortnite. The most important thing, however, about Dusty Divot is it's covered in trees. So you've got like perfect cover. There's no planes that are gonna take you out, okay? There's no snipers up top. You're very safe down here. You're not going to get spotted. So really all you've got to worry about are the people that actually land with you, which is good because you want to get kills. And yeah, listen, in practice and on paper, Dusty Divot is the best location in the game. Now for the pub stompers out there, maybe Tilted, fair enough, but I would say for the average player anyways, it's Dusty. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be our list. If you guys are new to the channel and enjoyed, make sure to subscribe. If you're already subscribed, please leave a like and thank you guys for watching. It's been a great 2018, and I will see you in like a week or so. I'm going to take a week off. So, yeah. Bye. Final video that I'm recording anyways of 2019. This is like I don't want to know how many videos in 3 days. This has been ridiculous.